Folks, welcome to the Jake Feinberg Show, and we're here in Crown Heights in Brooklyn. Hot fun in the summertime with a legendary cat, somebody who's still trying to create the balance between expression, improvisational expression, and the singer-songwriter craft. Jeremy Hilliard, welcome to the Jake Feinberg Show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Can you talk about this conundrum? I mean, where did it sprout from? Because most cats would go off and just wind up on the bandstand playing jazz standards or originals, or they'd be in the, folk aesthetic singer-songwriters. I mean, how have you been able to strike that balance?
That's a long question. I'll try to do the
just riff, man.
Riff here. It's sort of, I went on a long journey to get back to sort of where I started. You can think about it that way. Like going back to like teenager, like in jazz, blues, rock, discovering like Grateful Dead and how it's sort of like fused, that kind of music. I love those songs. Discovered Fish, that was happening at the time, which was more on like the improv end of the world, and really got into the improv, the jams, the guitar, studying music, and started studying jazz pretty intensely, and was writing songs, but something was missing. And around when I was like 21, 22, discovered Bob Dylan, and discovered what was missing, which was just like I have a connection to language that was inside of me, and it's taken a long time. It's still trying to dig it out, but that was the missing piece. And when I say went back to square one, when I went back to the Grateful Dead, it was like, oh, well, there was Robert Hunter and there was the improvisation. It's like, to me, is like, it's hard to beat, that combo. So.
I mean, with Peak, I was transcribing my interview with John Molo, and he talked a lot about, with the Grateful Dead, a lot of times they had such big conceptions about their music and how they wanted it to grow and where they wanted it to go, and the fact that you never played the same song the same way once, but they were limited by their musical abilities. They were not jazzers by any stretch of the imagination. I mean, Jerry studied jazz, Phil studied jazz, but they weren't trained musicians. So, how isn't it interesting? Do you feel like, in a sense, do you feel restricted at all that your concepts are so big? But do you feel limited by your vocabulary, or do you feel that you have the ability to do both?
That's a good question. The answer is I think that what defines us is our limitations, right? I've heard that.
Listen to you, man. Listen to you. Yeah.
So you just got to push in the direction you got to go, and wherever that wall is I guess the shape that you end up taking on, right? So.
What is a limitation? Can you give an example?
Everything. How fast my hands move, how high or low my voice will go, the cats I'm playing with, the room we're playing, when it comes down to it. Our first show of our summer tour is tomorrow in Northampton, Massachusetts, and we're practicing, we're planning, we got some new songs we're excited about and ready to, explore some jams. But when it comes down to it, just depends on what's going on in that moment, what we're feeling, what we end up doing. It's just like, it's hard to, so you can have the biggest aspirations in the world, but when it comes down to it, you've got to play certain songs at certain concerts. You got to put certain songs on certain records, so decisions ultimately get made, I guess.
Oh, I dig. I mean, would you say that? I mean, without having seen your band, I mean, would you say that are some songs just completely improvisational, or do they all leave the head of the tune and then you jam out?
That's a good question, and that is something that we are very interested in figuring it out. There's been some lineup changes, and that makes it hard to do that. Although all the cats we're playing with are great improvisers, so different songs,
But it's the trust factor. So the personnel changes have, it takes a while to build that trust back up again.
That's not it so much.
Yeah.
It's more like putting on a show together.
Dig.
And where those spots we feel safe that we can bring the audience with us. When you have the same group over a period of time, you figure out, say, oh, okay, we can stretch out for a while here and there, and we know that there's a certain amount of safety to it. But the drummer I'm playing with now, Kido Bowman-Schulte, is a great drummer. We play with Particle.
Yeah, where is that cat? I need to get to him immediately.
He's unbelievable, and we talked about that a lot because I said, we'd like to be able to stretch any song out. What about this song? What about this song? And certain songs, I don't know what it is about the grooves, lend themselves to opening up more. We have an instrumental song called Funk and Tonic that's on the Peak record, Electric Bouquet. And for some reason, when we get to the improvisation section of that song, the song is just like a fertile soil for it just lets you go.
I love fertile soil.
So there's other songs where it's like, well, yeah, I'd love to stretch this song out, but why won't it go? And it can be cracked. You can figure it out. Sometimes you just have to play a song for a long time to figure out how to do it.
Well, I mean, we got a lot of cats tuning in, and why don't you play an original tune for the audience?
Play a song. If I'm going to do that, can I switch this?
Dude, please
guitar?
Join here at Jeremy Hilliard. Hot fun in the summertime here in Brooklyn. Start of a big weekend here, and spirits have aligned again. And go ahead, brother.
This is a brand new song, so I'm going to hope I don't forget any words. Just literally a few days.
The world is watching.
It's called "The Day the World Was Born." Jamie moved out to Georgia with the past in the rearview mirror, an old guitar in the backseat. The sky above was clear, the windows all were rolled down, the sunlight felt so warm. There was nothing and nobody was ready to go the day the world was born. Katie was living in LA. She said, I wanna get out of here. Made a promise to herself she'd be gone this time next year. When the plane was taking off for Atlanta, in the distance was a thunderstorm. She put her headphones on, turned up her favorite song, the day the world was born. The day the world was born, was born. The day the world was born. Well, Jamie ran into some trouble. No, things didn't go as planned. He found out the hard way what it needs to understand. While he was playing guitar downtown in the city with his heart feeling torn, the Katie walked in, her eyes met his, the day the world was born. Well, they bought a big bus and drove it all across the country wide, making music night by night from one to the other side. Then they pulled off by the ocean when the tires were all but worn, and looking around it was home they found the day the world was born. The day the world was born, was born. The day the world was born. The day the world was born, was born. The day the world was born.
How did that feel?
Felt great. It's a brand new song, and it's co-written with my good friend Johnny Young, who's our keyboard player.
Yeah, John, I got to get to that cat too. Now I was going to say, I mean, do you guys? Is it fair to say that that you work stuff out on the bandstand, kind of get the song road tested before you go in the studio and do it? I mean, because that's what the Dead did. I mean, Touch of Grey was on the bandstand for 5 years before they made an MTV hit.
For the most part, yes. I think that it helps. It helps songs. There are, I would say almost every song. There's a few tunes that are like Falling Backwards Through Time, which we just released a video for off Electric Bouquet. It's very, layered, and they're just sort of layers that we put together in the studio. So it's not necessary for every single song. There's a couple songs, but mostly, yeah.
But like a song like that, do you feel like the chords lend themselves to taking off onto a glide path improvisationally?
Absolutely, yeah, and it's brand new. I mean, I don't know if this is going to be Dark Star, but it's definitely they don't all have to do that, but absolutely, if there's a nice melody and some changes, then absolutely, yeah.
Jeremy, one thing I wanted to ask you about, I never saw the Grateful Dead ever in my life, but more contemporary band that was always sort of analogous to them was Fish.
Yeah.
And, I went to see them a few times, but I couldn't get off on the song, the lyrics, okay? So, and I get that they're phenomenal musicians. I mean, they're all badasses. But what are they talking about? I'm just asking. And I want your take because I mean they have a freak following and good for them. They own MSG, but what are they talking about?
I can explain
I can. I know you're a freak, so yeah, go ahead.
I can't really explain, but I can explain my point of view because I'm a lyric guy. So let me just throw out here that one of my favorite songwriters is Conor Oberst from the band Bright Eyes of like our generation, is like my favorite lyricist. But he and Phoebe Bridgers just released a record with a group called Better Oblivion Community Center, and there's a song on there which is an amazing record. But one of the songs on there is called "Exception to the Rule."
Wait, I'm sorry, the Better Oblivion Community Center.
That's the name of the band.
Fantastic name.
It's a great name, and but one of the songs, it's called "Exception to the Rule." There's always an exception to the rule, and Fish is kind of that for me in a way. I mean, it was a timing thing in the mid-'90s. Like, I saw Fish, Hampton Coliseum, young Jeremy. I mean, still like one of the
I would have loved to have been with young Jeremy at that point.
It's one of the hottest shows, probably the hottest show I've ever seen. It just tore, the roof was gone from the building. And, and Trey is like, such an amazing performer and guitar player and all that stuff. But yeah, the lyric is not, the writing is not, it's very quirky. It's not, like the people were talking about, Robert Hunter and Dylan on that level with that. They can't do that. But they do so many other things.
What do they do lyrically?
Because
I'm not questioning their ability to take the roof off a place so that you'll never even remember what you saw.
There's a few things they do that aren't lyrically that set the stage for what they do.
Yeah.
So they have these incredibly elaborate classical compositions. So that's like, which is taken from the Zappa thing. So that happens. They're also pick the greatest covers. They understand what a good song is. They're playing Loving Cup. They're playing,
Little Feat, yeah.
Little Feat, Free Band in Paris. They did a few years ago from Joni Mitchell.
Joni are the best, yeah.
So you know that they get what a good song is. Mm-hmm. So there's a little bit of, it's not like they're singing their lyrics because, you know what I mean? It's like they understand what is good.
But those are cover tunes.
Those are cover tunes. And there's also their showmanship. Every show is different. They're playing chess with the audience. Everything's a big spectacle. Everything's these jokes. And it's just crazy. 13 shows with no repeats. So they're these incredible shows. So there's all these things going on aside from the lyrics. And then there's a few things that I do like that they do lyrically. Like some of the choruses, some of the last lines of verses, like have a lot to do with like the live experience. Like the I'm blanking for a second.
It's all right. It's all right.
Can I live while I'm young? Like the chorus to Chalk Dust. That's a cool line. The rest of the song is sort of gibberish, but like that's what you're left with. And so they kind of capture some moments, but
Divided Highway or whatever.
Divided Sky.
Divided Sky.
Some of the songs have cool titles, but no other lyrics.
Right.
Like,
I love this stuff, dude.
So they just somehow they slide. You know who else slides a little bit is Zeppelin too, because the music is so hot.
Yeah.
And it doesn't.
I like
matter.
that word slide.
Because Robert Plant could be singing about Frodo, and it kind of doesn't matter because the song, is called Ramble On, and it's just such a bad song. It's like, even me, who's like a lyric guy, Dylan freak and all that stuff, I can, I still dig it, there's a limit to
You know, when I interviewed Larry Coryell, he was jonesing to play with Bob Dylan. A lot of people don't know that. And Michael Bloomfield got the gig.
Oh.
And but I just, you know, we came in. I play the only song that's kind of healing me right now is the Jack Wilkins version of Naima. And I'd like you to play some kind of melodic, dissident jazz improvisation for the audience right now, just to soothe the soul on this hot summer day.
Can I play a tune, or does it have to be?
Play whatever you want.
See if I can get through this.
What is can you talk to the world, to the cats around the world who are authentic artists, infinite artists like yourself? How do you monetize? Is the merch table the best way for a musician to make money these days? Because you know what it is, like I like the fact that you guys are going on a tour, but I see so many cats that are like, yo, you know, I'll reach out to do interviews like this, and not like, you know, my show is anything, but they're like, yo, I'm working on the new album, and it's like, weren't you just doing an album? Like the albums wind up just sitting on the shelf and they atrophy. And so how do you not allow the music to atrophy?
Yeah, I think you got to go out and play shows. I think when the content comes down to content that you're putting out, just your performances and your recorded content. Those are the two end goals, right? For any songwriting or whatever the heck we're doing, those are the two things that it ends up, you know, going out to. I mean, there's other things. You put out a video or release the audio from a live show and stuff, but really you're putting out recorded music and you're performing shows. So you want to I just focus on doing those two things. And if you're going to play, yeah, you got to play with frequency. And yeah, merch is a great way to certainly make ends meet on the road.
I mean, I just want to get an idea. You guys are jumping in a van tomorrow. Is that right?
Oh, yeah.
Are you guys? It's a quartet or trio?
This is a quartet, yes.
It's a quartet jumping in the truck, jumping in the van. You know, my friends in Grateful Shred, Dan Horn and Sam Blasucci, and those guys. I mean, they'll take a tour bus sometimes. You know, just so they don't have to spend money on hotels.
Yeah.
I mean, how does it work?
I wish you should tell me the answer, because I mean, you know, a lot of musicians. I ask everybody that meet how they make it work, and some people ask me how I make it work. So I don't know. I think we're all trying to figure it out. It's definitely, you know, like I said, the only two things I know, and the older I get, the more I try to just keep it simple, which is like, got to make a record, and it's got to be better than the last one, or as good and different. And we got to go play as much as we can, you know, and do great shows.
How has Jeremy Hilliard learned? Because I mean, you're vacillating between the folk aesthetic tradition of singer-songwriter and just incredible jazz improvisation. How have you learned not to wank it on the bandstand?
There's no...
I mean, because was there a time when you were just repeating sequences and people were like, dude, stop playing the same thing over and over? I mean, what was the turning point for you? You're not a wanker.
No, I mean, I always talk about, like, you know, earning the jam.
What does that mean?
That means, like, basically play a good song, you know, pick a good song to play, write a good song, and sort of, okay, now you've given yourself something to launch yourself, and then I would like to hear an improvisation off that, and then you do enough of that and say, okay, well let's go even farther out than that. If you just get up there and you play some covers and then you start doing a 20-minute jam, or if you just start doing a jam, I mean, there's times and places for all that stuff, but earn it,
How I guess the better question: how have you learned to craft a beginning, middle, and end of a solo? How can you take us through that evolution?
That's an interesting.
Because that leads to non-wanking.
That's a very good question. I see where you're going with this. There's structure in improvisation, and that's taken.
Years.
It takes years and years and years, and I'm still like, it requires like daily. It's a daily discipline, because if you go away from creating structure on the fly, it just becomes too difficult. But it's it's obviously at the end of the day, it's all feeling and emotion that you're communicating. But there's a lot of like math. There's a lot of math in musical structure, and internalizing time. You talked about trust with other players. That definitely helps a lot when you have especially a drummer that you can trust to be has the same internal clock. Your internal clocks are set to the same.
The time feel.
Time feel, and knowing where the sort of like movements in improvisation, where those moments are, and that's one thing Trey is a master of. Garcia seemed to almost do it more by I don't know, it was almost more by feel, but you know what he's doing too. But Trey is very deliberate. You can hear the moments where he's like, okay, that's the end of that. You think it was more stream of consciousness with Garcia? I'm not sure.
I'm not saying it was premeditated with Trey, but because Jerry was more of a banjo bluegrass guy.
Well, I'm talking about the long free improvisations,
Right. But actually Jerry wasn't also. He was totally cool. Like if Brent went off on a place, he'd follow him, or Phil in the same way. And the idea though, when did you first realize that you're everyone has an ego, but it's very evident with you that you're not too caught up in yourself. And I think I'm trying to figure out when you first discovered that you were merely a conduit for the music coming through you from the heavens, and you really were only partially responsible for what's coming out of your instrument. I mean, I know what I'm talking about. I mean, it's music coming from the heavens through you. Right on my radio show, We'll Catch a Hang on my show. Behind the mic, I'm just a conduit for information. I try to get my ego out of the way because, and it's a hard thing to do. But how have you learned to get out of your own way?
That's a good question. I think that's why at least I do this, because it's like there's a quote Bob Dylan here. There's a magic, and it's not a Siegfried and Roy kind of magic. It's like it's something real that happens when you do get yourself out of the way. Happens with songwriting. That's like, those are like pretty much my two favorite moments, when a song comes out of nowhere, or when an improvisation takes flight,
right?
And you're not quite sure how that happened. Those are two magic moments that honestly, I was listening to a Bill Frisell interview earlier today, and they were asking a similar question, and he was like, I don't want to think about that, because you don't want to think about it too much, because if I start really thinking about it, it's going to get in my head. So, that's the essence of why I do this.
Do you, with these cats on the road, are you going to be able to? Is your goal to raise the collective consciousness of the audience?
That's a good question.
Because I've interviewed Billy. That guy's way out, and he's totally humble, and another guy that totally gives back and understands what real music is, but you can't expect the audience to go there unless you go there first. So with a band of a cast of characters that are rotating in and out, what is the goal for this tour aside from singing for your supper and getting off, but is it about raising the collective consciousness of the audience?
I think the answer is yes, but it's not something that's that's a stated goal,
it's not built into the set list or structure or anything like that.
Or even something you think about. I think that you can only think, I think about just doing my best, so being, physically, mentally, spiritually prepared to sing the songs, to pick the songs, to improvise, to entertain the people in the room as far as like, you know, them having a good time that night, interact with the other musicians in the band, and in a positive way, and have a conversation with them, and work our energy together, and then within the people in the room. And I think if those things all happen, then the things you're talking about radiate out from there. So,
Let me ask you though, on this tour, where are you headed to? You're going to go to Northampton. Where else are you going?
So we're going to Northampton. Next Saturday is New York City at the Mercury Lounge. We're playing a show with Zach Deputy. He's playing after us, and that's Saturday night, July 6th at.
So there's a one-nighter in Northampton. You're not doing Vermont, New Hampshire.
We are doing Vermont in a couple of weeks. So we could go up. We'll come back, do New York next week, and then we're going to do Vermont and Burlington on July 19th, and way out in Western New York, Hamilton, New York. We're also doing Manchester, Connecticut, up in northern Connecticut on that run, and then
how many? So out of this next chunk of time, how many shows? What's the longest amount of consecutive shows you're going to have?
I think it's just there are a few a week. I think that's like 3 that week. Burlington, Manchester, and Hamilton. The next week we're doing Bridgeport, Connecticut, and Rhode Island. There's a couple days, and then Stroudsburg, Pennsylvania, like the week after that. So yeah, just a few shows a week, and you know, trying to line up longer and longer tours. Hopefully, do a longer one in the fall.
Yeah, because you know, you listen back to like Spring '83 Grateful Dead tour. Hampton wasn't that great. Morgantown wasn't that great. All of a sudden, Binghamton, UVM, Rochester, I mean, they started to catch fire because they were on the road for 2 weeks in a row.
That is definitely true.
And so that's the ideal for you guys.
I love playing, and it's hard to
because cats have day jobs.
Well, it's just it's a new group, so it's like we're getting to the point where we should be doing longer and longer tours. That's the goal. So and this is a nice little chunk of shows this summer, which is cool. But yeah, after the first one is nice, it's the first one. But after 2 or 3, I realized that I feel like I play my best after I'm a little pissed off and I don't give a shit anymore. Like that second night because I missed this, I missed that.
Dude, you're so nailing it, dude. I know Garcia felt the same way.
Did
like
he? I didn't know that one. So
no, I mean I just know that. I mean I could feel that Jerry was like, man, he knows he stunk, and then all of a sudden they caught the groove. So why don't we finish with an original, man? Why don't you finish? It was great to hang, man.
I'll do one more tune.
Yeah.
Here, just why don't I play it on this guitar? This is also another new song. This is called Song for Every Sunset. Dawn, and the sun's hiding underground till night is gone, and the land looks like God forgot where we would be. Will you be as you were in my memory? Let there be a song for every sunset, a moon for every mountain, a rhyme for every river on the road going homeward. Let there be an ode to every ocean, a tune for every traveler, a sign for every seeker when the journey is over. Of light left us a canvas as blank as it's white. There's Solomon and Celia once passed nearby, and with them I painted colors we found in the sky. Let there be a song for every sunset, a moon for every mountain, a rhyme for every river on the road going homeward. Let there be an ode to every ocean, a tune for every traveler, a sign for every seeker when the journey is over. Maybe there's nothing not meant to be. Maybe we're made of just what we can see. And maybe the time will come when the heart fire burns, and you will come back to me when that day returns. Let there be a song for every sunset, a moon for every mountain, a rhyme for every river on the road going homeward. Let there be an ode to every ocean, a tune for every traveler, a sign for every seeker when the journey's over.
Before I let you go, there's been a breakout. People are freaking out. They want to know what kind. Is that a Gibson 330? Gibson 330?
This is a 330, yeah, it's from 1967, and
People are saying the most righteous stuff, man.
very cool.
Listen, man.
Thanks, everybody, for listening, and thank you for having me.
Watching, too. I mean, Jeremy, bless you, brother, and have a great tour. And I wish you nothing but the best on your journey into the infinite as the infinite artist. So thank you for taking the time, bro.
Thank you so much.
The Jake Feinberg Show. We'll see you later.